So let's start off with plan. That's usually where things originate. Now, I wrote a book on DevOps, and we actually started a little bit before planning, which was more on the idea of ideation. I can never pronounce that word.
Yeah, I know where you're going, but I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. Let me know about an idea. Like the catalyst of this whole thing is an idea, right? You essentially begin with what is it that the customer wants? What is it that your product managers are negotiating or discovering? And these ideas are coming hot off the press, right? Whether you're using AHA, maybe you're using Jira Product Discovery. There's a variety of different product management tools out there.
Maybe it's on the back of a napkin in a restaurant.
Yeah. I worked on an aircraft, and the very first drawing of that aircraft happened on the back of a napkin at a bar. So ideas come from everywhere, right? But you need an entry point. And usually, in my opinion, you got to start with an idea, because you can't plan on nothing, right? You got to have some.
It's usually some sort of brainstorming session, or there's more and more products are popping up in that particular discipline.
Yeah.
Probably the one you talked about in your book is the project discovery.
Yeah, we did Jira Product Discovery, and then the biggest competitor, like I mentioned earlier, right, is AHA, which is a pretty popular one. But it all starts there, right? It all starts with somebody. There's got to be a market, right, for all of this to even make sense, right? For us to even enter the DevOps space, somebody's got to be willing to want to buy it.
Exactly. Why are we doing what we're about to do? And is there a market for it?
Yeah. Because you can have the best DevOps pipelines and everything set up, but at the end of the day, if nobody's buying your product.
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah.
And keep in mind that back in the day, a good product sold before we even had DevOps, right? DevOps, I really like a definition. We had in episode 1, right? Which is the whole purpose of DevOps is to get from that idea to the hands of the customer as quickly as humanly possible with the highest quality, with the minimal amount of security.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is why we DevOps. And so we got obviously the entry point. So now we go to plan, and this is where I shine, right? This is where my bread and butter is in the planning side of the house. And Sean, I'm gonna make you say, what's the best planning tool out there?
Well, there's a lot of planning tools out there. Let me jump around the bush. The most common planning tool is going to be Jira. Everyone's using Jira. I believe it's still the best, but other people would debate me on whether it's the best or not. You're probably not one of those people.
Nope. I'm definitely on Team Jira.
Jira has basically, owned the marketplace for planning, for almost 2 decades now. If not full 2 decades. They took the marketplace by storm, around 2004-ish. And they've stayed the market leader throughout all of that. There's been plenty of tools that have popped up over that time frame to try to dethrone them, but none of them have truly been successful. I still have customers using things like version 1 and Rally, which are not current challengers to the throne, but they were about
tried.
a decade ago. They tried very hard.
Yeah, I was using Rally my early on in my career, but Rally's an old tool.
Oh no, it's not. But
I mean, relative to Jira, it's old.
No, it came out after Jira.
Did it really?
Yeah, Jira existed before Rally. Yeah. So Rally didn't start. Maybe it started roughly about the same time as Jira.
I feel like I was using Rally way before Jira.
You probably were, but that's because you were in defense.
Yeah, that's probably why.
And the reason why Rally kind of became popular in defense organizations was the majority of the sales force for Rally were from IBM Rational, and IBM Rational had the customer base in the defense world.
That would explain, yeah, because we were deep into ClearCase and ClearQuest.
Yes, yeah, and that's where if you look to where those tools are still being used, it's the defense industry.
Very small carve of the whole puzzle here.
Yeah.
So around that time frame, though, I was also in TFS, Team Foundation Server. I don't think that that's still a thing.
It's still out there in the wild. It's not as big as it used to be.
I mean, Azure DevOps kind of replaced it, right? TFS would have been
It,
the on-premise version, and Azure
yeah,
DevOps is currently around. But
yeah.
have you seen any developments in Azure DevOps?
Yes, we've got a number of clients that are active.
But is Microsoft actually actively like updating it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is a very valid, still alive tool, and you see. So the majority of their customers are are typically Microsoft focused
Yeah,
companies,
.NET folks,
even
right?
.NET
Yeah.
folks. Yeah, and if they're doing anything that's hosted, it's usually up in Azure, and they're using Azure DevOps.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
so
seen that. I mainly have seen because I low key, as much as I love Jira, um, a very I don't know if it's I guess I'll say it a very distant second place would be ADO. If I
so
had to find a contender to Jira, it would be
yeah.
ADO in my opinion.
Yeah. So a lot of our ADO customers are also using Jira.
Are they?
They are.
I've
Um,
seen that a little bit because you
yeah.
use ADO. Interestingly enough, I don't know why Microsoft did this, but based on my understanding, their ADO, right? ADO is a cloud version of TFS, so that has a
Mhm.
lot of heritage, which
Yeah.
then also comes from Visual Source Save, which future episode we're gonna go deeper into version control systems, right? It's part of
Yeah,
why
we're
we
not
wanted
in
to,
version control systems yet. We're still
yeah.
talking
Yeah,
plan, but
we're still in the plan phase, right?
but
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 as
this is
you
very common when you start talking about the DevOps infinity loop here. Is you have to jump ahead or jump back to truly explain
yeah.
explain a point.
But yeah, so anyway, so Microsoft acquires GitHub, which is a competing product to
Mhm.
ADO, from at least from a version control perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
And but ADO has its own. I don't know. I don't want to call it proprietary, right? But ADO has its own version control system that
Mhm.
directly competes with GitHub, which are both owned by Microsoft.
Mhm. Yeah, and now now both of them are Git based as well. Prior
Mm,
to that, they were investigating a Git based version control tool to enhance ADO,
yeah,
and they landed on their own flavor of Git, and at the same time they're acquiring
GitHub.
GitHub. Um, so
Yeah, because
so
I've had that scenario where somebody has their repositories in ADO,
mhm.
but are use Jira for their planning.
Yes. Yeah, we have seen, so ADO can be very compartmentalized, whatever I'm trying to say there. But
Compartmentalized.
thank you. You can take aspects of ADO and outsource them to other tools. So you can be in an ADO environment, but use GitHub for all the version control and all the CI/CD stuff using
Yeah.
GitHub Actions,
Which we'll talk about.
and yeah, exactly. I'm jumping over all over the place too, um, and use Jira for your project management, but still be in an ADO environment. So it's pretty flexible like that. And
Yeah.
we have clients that slice and dice their environment up like that.
So we have version one, we have Rally, we have Jira, we have ADO, but we also have some newer contenders like Monday.com and ClickUp
ClickUp.
and Smartsheets, which I actually like Smartsheets. I like to tell people Smartsheets is the old Microsoft project in the cloud.
Yeah. So I as well like the majority of the contenders. I don't necessarily have a hate to any software vendor, but it comes to when it comes to the point in a project or the relationship with a customer that they may be better off in a newer contender tool, but the thought of the process of migration from Jira to something else is just so daunting to the customer that we don't really want to suggest it.
Well, the other argument that I would have though is that Jira is really embraced in this concept called Open DevOps, and so Open DevOps is this notion where Jira is kind of at the center point. You see how Atlassian's here very much in the middle,
Mhm.
but what makes Jira a great tool is that it's not limited to just Jira,
Atlassian
right?
products, yeah.
And exactly. Not you
Mhm.
build it, you run it type of thing, right?
Yeah.
It works with all the products, right? So it's not just going to be, here we go, this is the graphic I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's not going to be just Jira or Atlassian based technologies. Jira, what makes it great is that you can have whatever other
Mhm.
tool you have and
Yeah.
it will integrate with Jira versus I don't know that the same can be said about ADO because it's very .NET
Well,
focused.
we just talked about that, and so ADO can do that, but not to the extent that Atlassian. So what
Yeah, it's, at least it's
Atlassian?
not in the spirit, right? It's not the
Yeah,
spirit of it.
no, not the spirit at all. ADO is a platform, and you can bolt these other tools onto the platform if you so choose to, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
But
But then when
Atlassian
you,
is more best of breed. They don't
right.
have all the tools in the DevOps, the pipeline or what we need. They don't have a piece that fits in each one of these disciplines in the DevOps.
Well, I think they would like to tell you that they do.
They would like to, but we can easily point out the pieces they're missing. Um,
Yeah.
um,
But then like tools like ClickUp and Monday and Asana, those tools are definitely lacking a lot significant.
yes,
Like, right.
they are.
So
Not they really lack in market share, and they don't necessarily connect to all the players in
yeah.
DevOps that they need to truly fit with everybody's software stack.
Yeah. So I would think it's safe to say that if you were in 2025 and beyond and you're looking at a plan tool that works well with the rest of the DevOps Infinity Loop, Jira, ADO are probably going to be your top two contenders. Then everybody else is in a distant third, fourth, fifth place.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since we're still really talking about plan, even though we keep getting ahead of ourselves. Um,
Right.
the other mentions are GitHub and GitLab. They have planning aspects to them, but I would not
Slack.
consider Slack.
Slack has a little board Kanban board type of thing going on now.
It does. In fact, if you deep dive on any one of these, you're going to find that they have some sort of project management aspect to them.